Well, this is Putin the Cat again. This is a Russian blue mix, and I'm going to talk about Russian palladium. So, one thing is, I've always had a big belief in palladium. I'm probably the only supposed partially silver channel that actually talks about palladium. And, considering the rarity of it, I think that it's, well, the fundamentals have a hell of a lot more going for palladium than even silver, gold, or anything else out there. Well over 90-something% of it, when you're considering industrial uses and jewelry uses, is consumed. You're lucky if you have 5% of it available for investment, and you only got about 8,500,000 ounces to 9 million ounces available supply for every given year, and that's including all the recycled. So, that's actually the metal of Russia. And, one thing they do is they play a lot of games with that metal. They'll dump on the market at times and really drive down the price despite what the fundamentals are. The actual statistics on palladium are very, very sketchy. And I'll put this guy down. He's pretty cool. He's very laid back. Very laid back. But the statistics on palladium are very, very sketchy. You're not going to get a lot of statistics out of it. The thing is, with palladium, you just have to look at the fundamentals and have a lot of patience. And that's really what it comes down to, because eventually it's going to get over the price of gold. And if you look back in 2001, for one brief moment, it was actually 5 times the price of gold. And of course, the Ford Motor Company got ripped off at that time, which I personally, well, you wouldn't really have to say it's conspiracy theory. Just put 2 and 2 together. Somebody up there was in cahoots with, Ford Motor Company and Russia, and there's probably a lot of backdoor dealing going on. And the price of that high price of palladium that was paid back in 2001 when it reached $1,050 an ounce was passed off onto the consumer of the cars. Quite obviously that's what happened. I mean, you got to be an idiot not to think that. Although I'll never see it stated anywhere, because you're not going to find any proof. But you're not going to find very smart corporate people buying palladium at that type of price and panicking. That's the excuse. Something was going on here. So I expect something like that to come up with palladium at one point in time. Gold is probably going to go to $5,000 or $8,000 an ounce. But you know what? It's probably going to take years. That ain't going to happen this year or next year. And, if there's problems, there's going to be problems and scares, and you think it's going to happen overnight. And that's where the physical metal pump and dumpers come into play, and they tell everybody to buy now, the sky's falling, and they're going to shaft you. But with palladium, there's not going to be any statistics you can actually rely on that much, other than the overall fundamentals. In other words, very small amount of the market's available for investment. You got maybe 500,000 ounces, if you're lucky, available for investment every year. That ain't nothing when you're looking at the globe. Chinese are buying it, and I'm sure there's Russians out there storing this stuff too. It's been stored for a long period of time. It's a card game. When it really comes down to it, it's a card game. But I think at one point in time, the guys inside of Russia, that's... people talk about in the movies and the mafia and the mob. That place is really the mafia and the mob to the max. Not that I know everything on the inside or anything, but there's a lot of hidden wealth there, big time. They play physical assets from what I could see. So, I think at one point in time, you're going to see palladium make a stellar move. It's going to be the one that nobody's watching. So, and you figure this out. You want to talk about driving the price up of a metal? You only need 500,000 ounces to be taken off the market by investors. You know what would happen then? It would go right through the roof. It would go right through the roof. There really isn't much palladium available for investment. Talk about silver. But you know what? You're not going to see people in the big, even the people that push the precious metals push palladium too much, because there isn't enough of it around at the current prices for them to bother with it. Now, I think the guys that are actually going to really play the shrewd maneuver are probably the Russians. They're probably sitting on stockpiles you don't know about in Zurich, Switzerland, and plus in the country of Russia itself. You absolutely have no idea how much palladium they have. They're going to push out so much information that's designed to screw you over. And all I got to say is be patient, because I don't know if it'll be this year, but it's going to be 1 year at one point in time. you're going to make a hell of a lot of money on palladium. And nobody is telling you this, because there's no way they can make money off it. There's no way they can make money off it. It's going to be a very small niche market. And forget about rhodium, forget about caesium isotopes and 133, and all the other bullshit that's out there. Let's get real, because as small a market as palladium is, I mean, you can get into really niche markets and really rare stuff, and that's not going to be commonly sold for nothing. Palladium, you could actually walk into pretty much any large bullion dealer and trade it in for cash. At one point in time, it's going to go up a hell of a lot, So, I was going to say, patient hold, and that's going to be the deal. That is actually going to make you the most money. It's not going to be great for survival money, but it's going to make you the most money. Palladium.